So the project that we have here today for a very high-end home, the custom home built up in Jupiter Island in Florida. I say up from where we are. Jupiter Island is a very unique place where a lot of celebrities, it's kind of very, very ultra high net worth clientele. The homes you find there are some of the most expensive that are down in South Florida. And it tends to be, it's right on the water, and it tends to be, it's this unique little island, that's right out of Jupiter. And it's where you'll see celebrities like Tiger Woods, Greg Norman, these celebrities of that caliber that live there. But it's kind of secluded enough that they can have privacy. So for this project here, this client had, like the rest of their home, they wanted something that's very unique, designed to exactly what they wanted. Like the rest of the house, it's everything was catered right down to the detail in terms of what they wanted, what their design directive and things of that nature. This particular client is actually the third wine room we've done for them in the past in all their different multiple homes. Then their wine room collection has actually grown over time. And so they knew what they wanted more specifically this time than they had in the past, which was definitely helpful. But it definitely made sure that we had to rise to the occasion and deliver what they were expecting. So one of the things that we can kind of see here of our concept and basically like the layout and things of that nature, we can go a little further here and kind of see what this actually turned into. Well, the outside, will start with the outside and work our way in. The entire 360 of this project, of this room, is all glass. We wanted to try to make it as minimally visible frames and things of that nature as possible. But there's always that hurdle of how to make insulated glass look seamless, or you don't want to see the butt joints go into. And that's always a very tricky thing to navigate, because inherently insulated glass is going to have a very ugly end where the gasket has to remain. So bringing those together, they call it a butt joint. Where that butt joint is very visible, it's very ugly, and we try to hide that. The insulated glass is very important because when you're dealing with South Florida weather, you have to make sure that you can try to mitigate any kind of condensation, sweating, any cold air loss. Just trying to create some sort of a net positive thermal barrier of some nature. And that's what the insulated glass can offer that. But we also
when you say insulated glass, what you mean is dual pane glass. And dual pane by definition is insulated. So they're one and the same thing, right? Am I understanding?
That is, for the most part, yes, correct. You can get into the nuances of it a little more, and dual pane is exactly dual pane as opposed to insulated. Sometimes that classification is denoted by it having an argon charge, and that actually having more of a thermal barrier between the two. So either way, the conventional terms is that, like everybody says, dual pane is insulated glass. Frameless glass door, frameless meaning single pane glass door can have, because when you penetrate through the glass, it's a different kind of, your handles have to attach differently. You have to use different hardware. Your closers, things like that, are all going to be fundamentally different in order to achieve a dual pane versus single pane door. So that's always kind of a difficult thing, because people want to have it as clean lines as possible, but insulated glass is not really going to be able to give you that overall look without creating some sort of a frame around it to hold the insulated glass, because your hardware has to attach to a frame. It can't attach to the glass anymore. So what we did here is we actually did a bit of a hybrid. We did insulated glass all the way around, and then when we got to the door, we actually did a single pane glass. And that's why if you look in the image, you can see that there's a linear grill, the home's air conditioning grill. That was intentionally put there to help make sure that they could control your environment out right at that door, to make sure that that it was stable, no sweating, no humidity. That was done intentionally.
So you're talking about the grill here. You're showing your screen.
Oh,
so do you want to? That's it. Point to it. Yeah.
Yep. So sorry. So this grill here was actually put there intentionally, and this door is not it's not a typical insulated glass door. We did a marriage of the two. So we did the insulated glass, and then we transitioned over to a single pane frameless glass, for lack of a better way to put it. And our concern here is to make sure this is not going to get too hot or too humid. So we worked with the builder on this and the engineers, and they were able to add this, which they would have had it in the general area, but they literally almost created like a curtain wall of conditioned space. So this little vestibule here is always going to be plus or minus a couple degrees of where we need to be, and it made this possible. So it was a kind of a effort on everybody's part to make sure that this thing was planned way ahead before anything was done. We're planning for this kind of element, all this planning that was like when we of why we have to go to this extreme. It's to work through all the nuances and details with their engineers, architects, the builder, to problem solve and make sure that things like this aren't an afterthought. They're not trying to add it. Oh, I should have done this. I should have done that, etc. So in transitioning from the kind of frame from this door meant that we had to kind of think that through too. Now, one of the things we have here is we wanted to have clean lines. We didn't want to see a U channel. A little difficult to kind of tell here, but this glass goes above, so it's kind of like disappears into the ceiling.
So you did it, because I've seen a lot of framed ones, and it really jumps out to me that the frame around the door is really minimal, and I was wondering how you did that top area.
Yeah, so we buried that U channel up there. Again, those are all things that we worked hand in hand with the builder and the architect and everybody, and it was definitely had to be to make sure that was all level and pre-thought up, so that once you get to this phase, glass will go in, because the glass is going to end up going in probably one of the last things, because there's work going on around here and you want to make sure that no one's going to hit the glass and things like that. So all that prep work was already done. We did originally want to try to bury the channel. The thing was, there wasn't enough depth in the floor there to really get that as low as we would have liked. And this is one of the things we kind of run into too, is I find that a lot of times that people conceptually, it's a cool idea to have like this, and I'm referring to this part down here, channel on the floor. Mm-hmm. So when your glass sits on that, it's nice to have the idea of the glass going, kind of disappearing into the floor. But it's inherently problematic in the experience that I've had, because dirt and stuff will start collecting in that little ridge between where that is. It starts to be like a weird thing. The other thing is, when people are cleaning the house, doing vacuuming, things like that, it's good to have. So I have found that having some sort of, I think we did about 1.25 inches down, having that additional protection at the bottom, it ends up being a cleaner finish. We actually did recess a little bit of this, but it's kind of hard to tell, because we wanted to have a little bit larger profile, because these pieces of glass are quite big. These are probably 10.5 feet. So they're pretty good size. So anyway, those are some of the little details that are all worthwhile. And then we end up doing a transition to cover these, and then transition for your corner that are as tight as possible. So the goal there is to try to cover where your dual pane and dual pane meet, and kind of try to cover that where those two are kind of marrying together. So let's take a look at another view here. So it's kind of another angle here. You can get a better a view of this area here. So this actually has an intake in, it's creating its own air cycle. So you have a supply and return here. Right. Yep. So that was part of the design, was to make sure.
So it's effectively a register and a return from the HVAC system.
Correct.
Yep. Going around there. Got it.
Yep. But it's specifically to keep this area in a stable environment. So that's all something we worked with the GC architect. Everybody was real good about making that happen, because logistically it was a lot harder. There was not a lot of room up here in the ceiling. Right. And yeah, it was, we had to definitely arm wrestle for that, but you don't want to take any chances, especially with clients of this nature. It's not worth taking the chance, winging it. And that's, unfortunately, we have to go back and fix a lot of times companies that try to wing it. And don't get me wrong, everybody can make mistakes, but we try to eliminate all the variables as much as possible ahead of time. So we can kind of go get another one here, get a better view. So you can kind of see how this is your other view. You can see how this 360 all the way around, this view from the kitchen. And then we can take a look inside here. So you get a view of, they're going to have a faux finish coming to kind of touch. Well, I should explain what this is. These are the refrigeration system for the room. It's what we call a tandem, a dual evaporator system. It's a split system. And what we'll do is we'll do what we call our BTU calculation for the space. So we're going to take all the parameters that go into it. It's a very specific, detailed analysis to determine like everything right down to the lights, what's the temperature around the room, how long the lights will be on, how often the doors will be open. If it's residential, we're going to factor all that stuff in there, because we want to really make sure this thing's going to be as fine-tuned and accurate as possible for our BTU calculations. So once we get that output of what we require, then we're able to size our equipment, our refrigeration system. So this one here is what we call a tandem. So these two there's way too much BTU output required for one unit to work on its own. So in order to properly deal with all the space in the proper way, we have this setup here. And,
so are they controlled by separate thermostats, or have they got one controller for both of them?
Okay, yeah, that's a good question. They work in tandem with each other. So they're going to be essentially one's a slave to the other. So when one turns on, they both turn on.
I was wondering, because otherwise one could dominate.
Correct.
Yeah.
And they work in unison. So they're working for the same directive from the thermostat controller.
Got it.
I want to do here also with the clients, this being so much glass, obviously we didn't want to have it, you look at the back of wine bottles necessarily. We want to have a lot of transparency too. Now the client had a certain bottle capacity that they wanted to achieve. That was kind of one of their major directives. So they gave us kind of certain elements they wanted to make sure that we planned for. Some case storage, which you can kind of see down below here. Visibility, so you can kind of see through it, so that if you're in the living room, you're not feeling like this is just a big blocked in wall between the kitchen, which is over here, living room, you have a view of the ocean on the down here. So trying to keep this as light and transparent while achieving a certain bottle capacity becomes it can be a tricky thing to achieve too. You don't want to be too aggressive in your bottle density for the room. So what we ended up doing was a white oak, and we have this metal system, this metal rod system that hold the bottles sideways. You can kind of see right here, and they go 3 bottles deep. And we do it on a CNC machine. We do all our millwork in-house, so we're in Fort Lauderdale. So we're able to control a lot of these variables. Another thing we did here is we recessed an LED light that goes all the way down. So at night or whenever, they can control some accent lighting that is just for the look. And having a couple of ways to do that. So these lights up top here and these accent lights are actually on 2 different mechanisms, 2 different switches. So that this is more utility and function. They want to go and find a bottle and they're going to back out. And that's what the overhead light typically is. Things like this are more for the while at night and things like that. So integrating that in there allows for a nice even glow of the bottles, and it really showcases them in a really cool but delicate manner. This white oak was actually something that we worked with the designer and the GC to match some other woodwork, other millwork they had in the home. And again, there's just to try to match and make it look like it was part of their overall design directive for their house in general. We want to make sure that these designers that are involved in these projects have worked very hard on having a certain vision and this idea of what they want the home to look like. And we respect that. And we want to make sure that we're coming to them with ways to accent and improve upon that from our perspective, not saying this is a square peg, round hole, make it work. Here maybe we can't do this, but here, let's try this. And I think that is a worthwhile way to do it from both of our sides, because it makes his or her project and overall job look better. We're an asset to them, but it makes our room look better too, because it looks like it fits, it makes sense. Something as simple as that, you'd be surprised how it seems obvious, but it gets overlooked. People don't take the time to really talk to the designers and get everybody's input ahead of time. And I think it's a really, really critical thing. You can plan all this stuff out ahead of time and make sure that there's no surprises. The last thing we want to do is have any surprises when this thing's installed. We want everybody to be like, this is even better than I expected, or it's exactly what I wanted. Not, this is not what I thought it was going to be. There's nothing worse than that feeling in the world. So a lot of that can be, and that's why we take so much time in doing the conceptual CADs. They took a lot more time for us to do that. They're a lot more detailed. And we get a lot of people that kind of push back and they say, why do you guys put so much time into these conceptual renderings? It's just a regular 2D CAD, we find. I've found that, and it's true, we do spend a lot more time, a lot more money, a lot more effort, and everything that goes into it to do this for clients. But the reason why is because not every client is going to be able to look at a 2D drawing like a builder, an architect, or designer and see the same thing that they are. When you're in the trade, it's easy to see. If you're, I don't know, a surgeon or a finance hedge fund manager, you might not be seeing it the same way they are. So we found that doing these conceptual renderings in conjunction with having the basic 2D for building is a good way to make sure that we bridge that gap and make sure that there's no surprises and that they really feel like they're able to be part of the conversation the way that they should be. So it's important. Let me take a look at another view here. And you can kind of just look at the straight on view. So you were staying back and you're looking at the door. Now this, what we did here along is all what we call presentation. And that means that the bottle is going to be angled in a way to be able to read the label. Now that is, we're trying to make sure it's at a height that your eye is going to naturally be able to read down on it and see it the right way. And which can be tricky because this particular client is a very, very tall client. So obviously we want to make sure that he can see the stuff that he prefers, but the missus can have the stuff that she likes down here and be able to showcase it, right? And what we also wanted to do was we didn't want it to be that you could only see these presentations from inside here. So we did was also added presentation that are in a staggered basically the flipped of this. So because otherwise you run into your necks interfere with each other. So by having these staggered placements.
Okay, I see. Yeah. So
yeah,
the bottles are sticking up at the peak from the side where you would be looking from the outside of the cellar. And then when you're inside the cellar, you've got a row and you've got alternate tops of the bottles so they don't interfere with each other.
That's
got
correct.
it.
So we do essentially what we call like interlacing the necks. So by just bumping it over a hair.
Interlacing the necks.
Yeah.
Technical term.
Yeah. So a lot of the things that it's not electrician, plumbers been around for, 100 years. There's terms for everything. Yeah. They have books and books and books of this stuff. So much of wine cellars is, relatively speaking, only a couple decades that's really been anywhere close to as popular as it now. There's not really too much of a vernacular that we almost have to and it changes. It's always evolving. So we just kind of come up with like the vintage view with their label forward. It's such a simple way to put it, but it gets the point across. So we have a lot of these little terms and things that cork out or label out, little terms to make sure that even in-house, that we're all understanding each other, that kind of become our wine cellar language, essentially. But
I learned a new term today, interlacing the necks. Good one.
So, and these metal racks, so you can kind of see how the bottle sits there. Now, these are 3 bottles deep, and you can and so it's a nice layout. We did a nice matte black there. So you can see the nice little matte black accents. And so it all kind of ties together.
So what is the span of those?
Cross? From here to here?
Yeah, how long are they?
For that size, and that's actually a very good question as well. It's not one of those things that people would really think too much about ahead of time because of when you run the span across, those steel tubes can start to flex if you run too far.
That's the first thing I went to. And they look like they're enormously long, but it's hard to tell from the picture. It's
also the perspective. The first perspective. So we already kind of know certain threshold points ahead of time with our CAD. We have an in-house CAD engineer that we run all these through. And if there's ever times that we're going to try something that might be outside the parameters of the norm that we haven't tried before, we'll actually do in-house mock-ups and stress tests and see how it performs before we try anything real in the field kind of thing, or try to say, look, I don't think that's going to fly. Present it as this is an alternative option, but try to make sure that there's no surprises.
Right. What is the length of them? Do you know off the top of your head?
A little bit of deep between the two, and whether it's going into the wood or if it's getting mounted to the face of the wood. So in the face, we go 39. If it's going into it a little bit further because we're going to be embedding it into the wood. So we need that extra little bit of depth. But it's also harder, it's more stable too. So, but you're looking right around 40 inches.
What is the bottle capacity of it? Because you talked about the need to ascertain or you created it based on the requirement for the capacity, but I don't remember you actually saying what it was. So
this project was over 400 bottles, but that doesn't really take into account how much case storage they have down below. Because we kind of, depending on how they collect, we kind of use a standard size. They can get more, but we kind of.
The bottom line is it's a 400 displayed bottle wine cellar with additional storage below in cases.
Correct. That's correct.
Got it. Cool. Okay. Is there anything else you wanted to say about it?
Sure. So one of the other things that we had for detail here is we wanted to be able to showcase some of this nice millwork and added between the glass and I have this little cove that runs the entire perimeter. And I know it's kind of hard to see here, but that adds another additional visual element that took a lot more time than you might expect to do that one simple like detail of lighting, and it washes that whole wall with a nice lighting effect at night. And it's amazing how much those little details like that can truly make all the difference. We've done projects where they were almost exactly the same thing for like a spec home builder or for model home builder. But the designer would like to they'll play around with minute details just to kind of get a feel of, just mix it up a bit. And you could have two rooms that are identical and one has just a little bit different lighting and it looks like, oh, cool, to, oh, wow. And it's amazing how much that small little nuance difference, just a little planning ahead of time can change that entire visual dynamic. So those little details like that so much goes into planning ahead of time before a single thing gets cut, built, or anything installed. There's just a lot that goes into making sure those details are well thought out and planned ahead for.
Cool.
Yeah. Other than that, in this particular room, the client is a mixed wine collection. So their set point for their room, they have it at 57. So you're looking at about 55 degree to 60 degree Fahrenheit temperature delta fluctuation. So that midpoint being right around 57, which is perfect for whites and reds. They're more red collector, but just in case, they keep it at that stable temperature, and it's totally safe for all their wines.